So good morning, welcome to Chamber Live. I'm Simon from the East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce. We've also got Jen and Debbie from the Chamber joining us this morning. Today's Chamber Live is Don't Stop Selling and Marketing. Thanks for attending, for sharing an hour of your time with us today. I'll introduce Dave Walker from Plus 24 Marketing shortly. First of all, though, some information and housekeeping. I do this every time. I signpost people to the Chamber website, which is chamberlancs.co.uk. We've got there what we call our coronavirus hub. Well worth looking, as it's a great starting point for anything business corona related, and it's regularly updated, so that as government advice changes, all the links on that page are updated as well. Chamber Live is what you're attending now, and it's a series of Chamber Live events scheduled for now between April and into May, and I'm sure they'll carry on beyond. Next Monday, we start our first Monday series. I'm going to mute everybody again. And we start our first Monday series on the 20th of April, and that's keeping the home workforce engaged. If you look at chamberlive.co.uk, you'll see we've sprinkled in some sessions on well-being and forward thinking and positive thinking, and also business planning as well as we go through the rest of April and into May. So keeping the home workforce engaged and connected is next Monday, the 20th of April. That's 2 till 3 on Monday. Next Wednesday, Chris Nagg, local chair of IOSH and many other things. Many of you will know him as a big character in the East Lancs community. He's talking about managing health and safety at work and at home during a pandemic. That's a week today. And then a week on Monday, the 27th of April, Mark from Serian is talking about protecting your business with cyber essentials. Do check Chamber Live regularly. Join the LinkedIn group as well. My mobile's ringing, I'll ignore that. Do share your personal email with us. You may find yourself being furloughed, either voluntarily or sort of being requested to go on furlough. In that case, you might not be able to access your work emails account, so please don't be shy of sharing personal emails with us. We won't spam you, but it just allows us to keep you engaged in the Chamber Live community. You can join the Chamber Live LinkedIn group. If you need the link to it, Debbie will put it in the chat now. And also the Chamber WhatsApp group. If you send the word subscribe to the WhatsApp number that will also appear in the group shortly, in the chat shortly, it's all 7771939914. It's just another way of getting information from your chamber. Again, we don't send any rude pictures or anything like that, and it's strictly only 9 till 5 as well. So we won't interrupt your social time with our WhatsApp spam. We will survey you at the end to get your feedback on Chamber Live. It helps us to learn what we're doing well and what we could do better. We are looking for sponsors for the series, so if you'd like to talk to us about being a sponsor of Chamber Live, do get in touch with us. I am recording this morning's session for publishing later today. I'm just going to check that I'm actually doing that. Yes, I am. That'll be available on the chamberlive.co.uk page and on our YouTube channel to watch after the event. Now, I've got everyone on mute at the moment. That just keeps the background noise down. But we are keen for this to be interactive, so there will be some questions throughout and the opportunity for you to ask questions. Dave will let you know when that time is, probably at the end of the session. But if you get questions as you're going along, do put them in the chat box and we can moderate them and go through them at the end, and I'll introduce you to put your question to Dave at the end. Or you can raise your hand. You can use Zoom and raise a virtual blue hand, which lets me know and lets Dave know that we need to come to you and get your question from you. Finally, the views expressed in this seminar do not necessarily represent the views of the East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce, and all facts were believed to be correct at the time of recording on the 15th of April 2020, but we don't want to be held responsible for something that's such a fast-moving situation, and this is going on YouTube, so it'll be there forever. I think that's the introductions done, so let me, without further ado, introduce our speaker today from Plus 24 Marketing, Mr. Dave Walker.
Thanks, Simon. Appreciate that. I normally sort of expect some sort of round of applause when I come on. So if you could give me a virtual round of applause, that'd be amazing. Awesome. Give me the confidence to carry on. Brilliant. So normally when I do presentations, I like to get loads of interaction, people shouting out, etc., etc. Not entirely possible with this, but we are going to use some polls at various points throughout the talk to try and get some feedback and make it a little bit interactive. We're going to try, if time dependent, we're going to try a little breakout session at the end. I believe it's the first time that we've done this on Chamber, so bear with us if the technology fails or the transition between presentation mode and speaking mode is a little bit clunky, but I'll do my best to keep that streamlined. We'll have questions, like Simon said, at the end, and I'm going to bring our marketing manager, Social Sam. He's famous across the whole of East Lancashire at Social Sam. He's going to join us to answer some of the more practical, tactical style questions, if there are any at the end. So I normally start my talks with a bit of an icebreaker, but I had a bit of a bad experience with an icebreaker. There was a time where I went networking. This is going back probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I thought, I've got the best idea, absolute best idea for an icebreaker in the world. So I went to this networking event, and sure enough, I was introduced. I was doing a 10-minute slot that day. And I'd taken along with me a huge lump of ice and a massive hammer. So I threw the ice on the desk and smashed this ice to pieces. And it went a little bit like the response that you've got there. Nobody laughed. Nobody understood the joke. It was like tumbleweed going across the table. So since then, I've decided to put less effort into my icebreakers. So I'm going to move on. Moving on to what I'm going to cover today. So I'm going to start with a little bit of mindset and business stuff, and then I'm going to move on to the sales and marketing side of things. And that's because I firmly believe that in order to market yourselves effectively, you've really got to get your mindset into the right place. Inevitably, there's been huge change in the way that we do business. And so we've got to get our heads into the game and understand where we're at currently, where we want to get to. So I believe there's a bit of a mindset shift that we need to go through first there. The goal of this talk is merely to inspire thought. It's not going to give anybody any solutions on how to go and market their business or how to sell. You're not going to walk away with this knowing how you're going to get your next £1 million of sales. But what it is going to do, hopefully, is leave you with some ideas and the start of a thought process where you can start to put a strategy together for your business. Every business will need their own unique strategy to get us through this scenario. We'll try and do some of the more practical stuff in the Q&A, if that's possible, and I'll cover some of the top line stuff now. I think I know quite a few of you already, but for those of you that I don't, I'll just give you a very brief background about myself. Started my career at a finance firm as a marketing executive. Sort of over 3 years, I became sales and marketing manager there, and actually developed a CRM system in the cloud before the cloud term was coined, the cloud. Which was a CRM system, and that saw the turnover increase by a 7-figure sum. So I really enjoyed that role. Then I went on the other side, so I joined an agency for a few years. So I've had the experience of working on both sides, working for a company marketing and also on the agency side. And then a little shy of 10 years ago, I set up Plus 24 Marketing, which covers obviously digital marketing, but it also covers software and technology development. And we also do apprenticeship training as well. Through the years, I've worked with some top brands, Screwfix and Dulux. I've traveled internationally to advise businesses on their technical strategies, but also worked with a huge number of small and local businesses. And my passion really is, I'm going to say Burnley, but East Lancashire as a whole and the Northwest. I'm massively passionate about our area and our community, and I put a lot of time, and so does my whole team, into supporting the community wherever we can. The last 5 or 6 weeks has been an interesting journey, like all of us, and I'm going to try and share some of the experience that we've been through as a business, and how we are adapting and changing our business to the current times. The first thing I just want to point out, and if you're into any of the speakers that I'm into, you might pick up some of the relations of what I'm talking about. But I'm going to shamelessly steal some of Simon Sinek's thoughts that he's put out on social media recently. He recently posted about being an optimist rather than being positive, and it really rung true with me, because I've always thought that having a positive mental attitude was the world. And if you had a PMA, you could literally achieve anything that you wanted. I've actually matured a little bit from that attitude now. And I actually feel that being positive is the wrong way to look at things. You need to be optimistic. If you consider that you're positive, your attitude is very much, yeah, everything's great, everything's going to be fine, it's all going to be good. If you're an optimist, you're realizing that there's a difficult situation ahead, but you're confident of the outcome. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge that we're in for some very, very difficult times for a lot of businesses. But equally, we need to be optimistic about the outcome. Otherwise, we'll never make the changes that we need to in our business to see us through this. So if I can, Simon, I'm going to just introduce the first poll. I want to try and gauge how optimistic everybody is in their business outcome at this stage. And please be honest, I think it is confidential, Simon. I certainly can't see the results. So I'd really love to get a feeling of where everybody's heads are at the minute.
Yeah, it is confidential, and we'll give you another 5 seconds to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, cool. Wow, that's amazing. I'm loving the 0%. Nobody's not confident at all, which is fantastic. Very worried, very understandable. But I kind of hoped that everybody will be quietly confident with some reservations. And amazing to see. I presume that's one person smashing it with no worries at all. So fantastic. So I'm going to move on and just put some slides on if that's possible. Just bear with me whilst I do this. This one. So can you see my screen, Simon?
Not yet.
Oh, I know. Try that one again. There we go. That's better.
That looks more promising.
Okay, so hopefully you've got a blank screen. It says from survival mode to reinvention mode. Yep. Awesome. So we've decided that we're going to be an optimist, but there's a bit of a journey that we've been through as a business, which is sort of going through some stages, which I'm going to talk about. And so again, another one from Simon Sinek. He talks about businesses moving from basically being in survival mode into a reinvention mode. And I'm going to explain what that means to us. So you should be able to see now. Has that moved on, Simon? Yep. Okay. So you should be able to see the first mode that we're in. So we've got panic mode initially. And I think most businesses go through this when there's a realization that, oh crap, this is going to last longer than we thought it was going to be. This is a bigger deal than anybody expected. This is a bigger deal than even the experts told it was going to be. So there's initial panic mode, and I certainly felt that. The initial anxiety and fear, the dread, the negative thoughts. Perhaps you see a client or two starting to waver a little bit. So the initial feelings are panic mode. But very quickly, as business leaders, we move on from this. We're used to dealing with tragedy and difficult times. Sales sometimes go wrong and you have to rescue the situation. So we quickly move into survival mode. And that quite often means cost cutting, potentially reduced marketing in orders, cost cutting, protecting cash flow, redundancies, furlough, all these kind of things. And I just want to say that these are all really important steps that we need to go through. And it's certainly a step that we went through probably 4, maybe 5 weeks ago, and sort of went through these processes. Right, okay, how do we secure the immediate future of our business? The challenge is that a lot of people stay in this mode, and that's really understandable because we've got experts giving us varied responses. There's no certainty as to when we're going to get out of here. Your sales might be falling off a cliff. So it's very difficult to get us out of this survival mode. But if we've got an optimistic attitude, we can do this. And eventually we might get to this place, which Simon Sinek calls reinvention mode. I'm not sure if there should be or shouldn't be a dash in there. So I've kind of done both options just in case. And this is a really exciting time, actually. And I want everybody to embrace this if you've not done already. It's really exciting to get your team involved in this. We actually we had a Cobra meeting. So we created our own Cobra team. It was actually the whole team. We had group chats, we had brainstorming sessions, and we came up with loads and loads of ideas. Right, okay, what services do we offer where there's going to be a need during these times? What different messages can we put out? What do we need to change in order to bring in the sales that we wouldn't normally have got? And it's dead exciting. The problem then is you get this overwhelming feeling. And some people will resonate with this. For some people, it's different. It's certainly the way that we went through it. And we had 4 or 5 pages worth of ideas and various different things of how to get over these challenges that we were facing. Fairly quickly, we got into planning mode and realized actually we just need to look at this like we are our own client. So we did the task setting, the project management, and then we started to feel a bit determined. And finally, this is the stage that we're in at the minute, which is the action mode. And that means that we're battle ready. We're ready for the hard graft. The team's fully engaged. And I just want to highlight as well is that it's so important that you get your team fully engaged at this stage. And this is another reason why we need to be optimistic and not positive. If we're too positive, our team won't recognize the urgency of the situation. As business leaders, we need to ensure that our team understands, but they're not fearful. And so if we're optimistic and say, look, guys, we're all going to have to pull together here, but we're confident that we'll get through this as a team, as a unit. And then eventually on the other side, if we go through these stages and we put those actions in place, winning mode. And I'm pleased to say that we're sort of, as my business is currently, we're moving from step 6 into step 7, which is we've already won 3 clients on the back of the action mode. So sales can happen during this time, and I'll explain a little bit more about how we got there a little bit later on. So hopefully that kind of helps people understand where we're at currently. And then finally, I just want to talk about what reinvention mode is to us. So if you're in reinvention mode, you say, how can we change what we do in order to just get through this? And that's a really important mind shift from how are we going to get through this? We must accept that we've all got to make some changes in the way that we do business. Excuse me. And if we're in that mindset, we can get through the reinvention mode. Every industry's been through this process before, by the way. They might not have been through coronavirus. Well, they certainly haven't been through coronavirus, but every industry's been through changes like this. And it's very much, an example would be Uber. Taxi companies didn't fail because Uber came along. Taxi companies failed because they didn't reinvent themselves. Blockbusters didn't fail because of streaming. Blockbusters failed because they failed to reinvent themselves. And you'll see why this mindset shift is moving towards how we're going to market ourselves moving forward. We've got to reinvent ourselves and adjust the way we do business in order to succeed. I'm going to jump into another poll and just to engage where people feel they're at currently. So who feels like they're still in survival mode? Who feels like they're ready to reinvent? And who feels like they've already taken actions to reinvent? I just want to gauge where people are at currently. Oh, I have to vote, I suppose.
I'll give you 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, cool. So fairly varied mix. Some people have already taken really positive actions. People ready to reinvent, which is kind of where I expected most people to be. You know, it feels like an age since this whole coronavirus situation kicked in. It feels like an absolute age ago, but it really wasn't. You're talking a matter of weeks before it really kicked in, and so things have moved along so fast. So it's good to see that so many of you are ready to reinvent and already taking steps. If you haven't yet, that's okay too. There's time to reinvent and move forward. And if you've got any questions, if you're really stuck with that, please do ask them at the end, and we'll give you a few pointers on how you can go through that process. Okay, so that's the mindset shift that I feel that we need to go through. I'm gonna just jump into another slide if I can. Hopefully be more streamlined this time. Okay, so hopefully you can see the screen. I've just got a couple of slides to go through here. Without sales, we don't have a business, right? And this kind of answers the title of the talk or the presentation. The reality is that we all sell. You know, whether we're a business or an organisation or whatever organisation you come from, we sell to people. And so without that, we have no business. So therefore, there isn't really even a question as to whether we need to continue to sell or not during this time. And there's very few businesses that could say to me, well, we can't market because of this, or we can't sell because of this. Even businesses that physically can't sell because of the restrictions on social distancing at the minute, even those businesses should still be marketing themselves and selling for the future, or at least preparing for that influx of sales when we do return to some form of normality. So I'm going to kick off our marketing with a few stats. So hopefully you've got a page there that you can see a few stats. So all of these stats and figures and things that I'm going to talk about at the minute have come from sources that I read on a semi-regular basis, places like Marketing Week and obviously various others. I did keep a note somewhere, so if people want to catch up on where these have come from afterwards, I'll try and dig those out. So a survey of 35,000 consumers found that 8% of those thought brands should stop advertising. 78% believe brands should help them with their day-to-day lives. I think that's interesting. 75% say brands should inform them what their company is doing. And 74% think companies should not exploit the situation. I think that's fairly obvious. I'm surprised that there was 26% that thought that they should exploit the situation. It seems a little bit unreal to me. So I'm going to come back to what this means for businesses. A few more interesting points that I've dug up from different articles. ITV are expecting at least 10% fall in advertising revenue in April. I suppose we sort of expect that. Facebook Messenger usage has increased by up to 50% in the worst affected areas. One report predicts Facebook ad revenue to be hit by around $15 billion, down to a mere $67 billion. Poor Facebook. The same report also predicts Google is to be hit by an 18% decline in ad revenue, which equates to $28 billion. Little side note there, the report actually says that they will bounce back in 2021 and get back to where they were expected to be this year. 45% of global consumers are spending more time on social media. And then I threw this one in here because probably one of the worst affected industries, travel. There's even some light at the end of the tunnel for those guys, because 55% of frequent vacationers are likely to book for future holidays whilst confined to their own homes. So even in the most dire situations, there are some silver linings there. Now, you can see where I'm going with this, I'm sure. So we've got consumers are happy for brands to continue marketing, albeit empathetically. We've got social media usage going through the roof. And we've got cost of online ads coming down due to the lower spend. I don't know about anybody else, but that spells opportunity to me. And I think it's really important that we all recognise that there is significant opportunity in the situation that we find ourselves in. Let me stop that one. Okay. So we've got some stats, we've got some ideas that actually there may be some real opportunity out there to market and get our message out to people, irrespective. Actually, I just want to mention. I spoke about the online opportunities. Actually, you've got a huge amount of people staying at home at the minute, and I don't know about anybody else, but I'm seeing a lot less spam turning up in my post. And I've got a lot more time to read my post, and I'm opening letters that I just would have thrown on the sideboard when I came in from work. So if you can get access to a printer and you have a direct marketing capabilities, there may be an opportunity for offline marketing in people's homes as well. But irrespective of the platform that you choose, I think the message is extremely, extremely vital. The overwhelming influence there is that we must be empathetic with our message. Our sales and marketing process needs to become much more storytelling. Some people have already adopted this form of marketing anyway through things like content marketing, but it's really important that our story is told about our businesses. People want to know, what are our businesses doing? How are we looking after our staff? What are we doing to get the nation through the coronavirus situation? They want to hear our stories, and that's what, and also they're online an awful lot more, so they're ready to accept our messages more readily. Quick caveat, be careful on your offers of free support to places like the NHS. Brewdog, a brewing company that many of you will have heard of, turned their hand to making hand sanitizer to support the gap that the NHS had. Interestingly, they branded it heavily. So all of the bottles that they produced had heavy branding on them. They threw it all over social media, all branded up, and they got quite a negative response from quite a lot of people saying that they were trying to profiteer from the situation. And profiteer is a word that we all want to avoid as much as possible. I'm a believer in capitalising and seeing an opportunity, but profiteering is certainly going to be seen as a bad thing. One thing I'm absolutely sure of is that businesses that continue to market or even increase their marketing activity are probably going to, well, I'm not going to say probably, they are going to fare better on the other side of this. Going silent in your marketing is not an option. You must continue to spread your message. And sorry, I got distracted there. I'm just going to move on to another slide to explain this. If we jump into here, I think. So you should be able to see an example scenario. So hopefully you can see that. There's two restaurants in a similar area, similar cuisine and prices, similar number of covers and overheads are similar. Both normally very popular. Clearly, they're obviously closed due to the lockdown, and they've both decided it's not possible to adapt their offering into some form of delivery or takeaway service. We've got two restaurants. Restaurant A goes into hibernation mode, reduces cost, furlough staff, social media activity drops, marketing budget is slashed. They decide to renovate the restaurant while it's closed. Wonderful opportunity to do so. And they're planning a marketing strategy through newspaper ads and radio ads, which have always worked traditionally to promote the relaunch. Absolutely nothing wrong with those decisions there, I would say. We've got restaurant B. Similar cost reduction processes, furlough staff. However, in this case, the owner decides to take control of social media platforms. They keep a small budget to promote the social posts. They tell their story. They film from their home kitchen and explain how to make some of their meals. They also choose to renovate, but they show pictures of the progress on social media and themselves covered in paint, which is the more important bit than the actual building itself. They also intend to run an ad in the papers and the radio, albeit with a slightly smaller budget due to spending some of that on the social media boosts. So, when restrictions are eventually lifted, if we jump into a poll, when restrictions are eventually lifted, which one of these restaurants performs better? I'm hoping this is fairly obvious, because otherwise it makes my next point crap.
I'll give 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we've got a small number of people who thought restaurant A. There's nothing wrong with that. And then we've got a very large portion of people who suggested restaurant B. I bet it was Sam who put restaurant A just to throw a spanner in the works. So we can clearly see that when we put a fairly obvious situation in front of ourselves and it's somebody else's business, the solution is fairly obvious. If you're remaining active on social media and if you're doing things proactively,
you're very much going to put yourselves in a stronger position coming out of the other side of this. So this is a business that physically has to close because of social distancing, but they've put themselves into a stronger position by maintaining and building relationships with people potentially that they didn't have before. One of the key things I want to say there is that if they're telling the story, it's about them and the owners, you know, and it's really important. We're going through a time where we've got a very empathetic country, and it's bringing huge parts of the country together that perhaps wouldn't have done before. You know, we are in this together, and so people are relating and feeling towards more the people side of businesses. They don't want to see a brand, they want to see the people behind the brand, and it's so important to make sure that that message out there at the minute becomes about your people, yourself, and that kind of message, telling the story. So I would highly advise, if I just stop sharing that now, so I'd highly recommend that you go on the offensive. I'd urge everybody to go on the offensive. An old rugby coach of mine always told me that attack is the best form of defense. And he didn't just mean that when we had the ball in our hands either. He meant that we had to defend ferociously when we didn't have the ball in hand. And when we attacked with pace, intelligence and class. He only coached us for one season because he was filling in for another coach. But we obviously went on to win that league by a significant margin from the advice that he gave us. Now, it might seem a bit of an odd metaphor. However, I firmly believe that when a business is on the back foot, it's imperative to go on the offensive. And there will be businesses in this room that is on the back foot, potentially still in that panic or survival mode. But it's so important now that we take the offensive on our marketing and our message going out there. Tell your story, start Facebook groups, engage in online discussions, capitalize on the lower priced ads, reinvent your service, reinvent your sales and marketing message, call in favors, ask for help, network like mad. If you're in the leisure sector, use the oversubscribed model to ensure that you've got a boost in demand when you do reopen. And don't be afraid to get in front of the camera and put yourselves out there. This is a stumbling block for a lot of people. It is about the people. And if you don't put yourself in front of a camera, then it's going to be more difficult to tell that story. I'm going to summarize a little bit in a minute, but there are always winners and losers. And this awful pandemic is no different. Some businesses will win and some will lose, but it's your job as the leader to give your business the best possible chance to survive. And that means continuing to market and continuing to sell, because you cannot afford, because we've no idea how long this is going to last, or how long the, I suppose, inevitable recession that we go into after this. We've no idea how long these difficult times are going to last. So you need to give your business the best possible chance to succeed. And that means keep pushing and going on the offensive in your sales and marketing. I'm just going to jump quickly on to my slides again. Hopefully it's next slide on from this. I'm just going to summarize. So we need to focus our mindset, be an optimist. Business is going to change. We need to move into reinvention mode. Don't be the next blockbusters by not reinventing yourselves. Go to market now, go on the offensive. It needs to be an empathetic message. Tell your story over a hard sell. Use social media. There is so much attention on social media at the minute, more than there's ever been. So it's where people are at. Please use it to your advantage. Use the ads. There is still a lot of noise on social media, so you need to use ads to make sure that you stand out from that noise. And the beauty of it as well, of capitalizing on ads at the minute, is that the cost is coming down. Particularly on Google, we've noticed significant drops in our cost per click in some of our campaigns. And keep your sales messages simple. You know, that kind of leads on to this. Marketing principles don't change right now. It's just the message and the angle that does. And also a big highlight for some of you, it will be important to engage and spend, you know, significant marketing budgets. But the reality is, for the majority of you, your marketing doesn't have to cost the earth, because it's gone about people, because it's gone about storytelling. We all have the capabilities to take some of that on ourselves. And if you can't physically trade due to social distancing rules, it's even more important not to fall silent. If you're out of sight, you will fall out of mind. And I can guarantee that if you're silent, one of your competitors will be more than happy chat and keep engaged with your existing customers. So that's dead important. Now, so I've summarized it, and I want to do a breakout task, Simon, if that's okay. This is going to, if I jump onto this, so you can still see this hopefully. So we're going to separate into groups. Simon, you decide, 5 or 6 people-ish. In each group, you've got 10 seconds to pick who kicks off the discussion. And then I want everybody for 30 seconds or so just to discuss each of their biggest business challenges. Do not hog the limelight. You've only got 5 minutes or so to get through this. So 30 seconds, bash out your biggest challenges. Decide on 1 or 2 of the biggest challenges to pass on to the whole group. And then Simon will pick out 2 or 3 of the groups to share those challenges. And then me and Sam will discuss some of the solutions to those challenges. And then that'll nicely kick off our Q&A session. That'll lead on quite nicely to that, I think. So Simon, can we try and make that happen?
Yeah, the rooms are ready. Do you want to just recap? Just repetition works. Just tell people again what you need them to do in this 5 minutes.
Sure. So in the 5 minutes, I want everybody to have a go at telling the small group their biggest challenge in business right now, whether it's business, sales, or marketing related. Each of you take a turn to explain your biggest challenge. Decide on the top 1 or 2 that you're going to present to the whole session, and then Simon will pick out 2 or 3 of those that we'll discuss in a bit more detail. Hopefully, find some solutions for those challenges, and then that'll lead us nicely into the Q&A, where I'm keen to get some really challenging questions, especially if it's going to test social, Sam.
Okay, right. I'll split you all off into your rooms now. This should work. Right, so rather than picking on anyone, does anyone want to raise a virtual hand or wave at the camera and be the spokesperson for their group?
I'll go first if you want.
I knew it would be Jen and Mark. I'll go to you, Jen, and then I'll come to you, Mark.
Well, go to me first, just because I want to say sorry to my lot who were in my room, because
go on, Jen.
I left mid-sentence. So I'm sorry about that. But the general gist, I think, from our breakout was that whilst it might be human nature to think, oh, something awful's happened, marketing, it's not the time for marketing. If you actually put yourself into the mindset of your audience, they may well be more responsive, more accessible than ever. So for instance, if your audience is education, then teachers are less distracted than they usually are, so they're probably more responsive. Certainly what I'm finding with some of my clients. So in theory, I mean, for instance, all of us, there's 60 odd people on this chat today, potentially, they're all more responsive and more accessible than they normally would be if they were being dragged into meetings and things. So I think it's probably more important to look at your audience and whether it would be seen as insensitive to market to them and communicate with them, or whether actually they might be quite glad of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the point is, if the decision is made that it's insensitive to market to them, then there's no reason why your story can't be told. And take a more social approach to your marketing and sort of build your network rather than, actively trying to sell, if you will. And ultimately that should result in more connections, which leads to more sales long term.
Thanks, Jen. Mark, do you want to chip in with your bit? And then if you're watching and you've got either a question or a contribution, if you either raise your hands in Zoom or use the chat box, and then we'll bring you in.
Probably similar theme to Jen, and probably all in a similar boat. It was to do with getting the common theme throughout our group was getting the messaging right, so that you're not perceived in a negative way. And I think something that we talked about was there should be another word for selling, because for me selling's helping. So if you can be helping people and adding some value now, and that's something that should be very welcome. We shouldn't be ashamed of being out there saying that we can do it. But there was that concern about getting that balance right of making sure that people know you're open for business and you're there to help, without being too pushy, if that's the right word, and being inappropriate.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's a massive negative connotation towards the word sales, and and it's absolute rubbish as far as I'm concerned. You know, we all have to sell. The economy wouldn't exist if we didn't do sales, and so. But there is a risk of us being too fearful about pushing our message because of the fear that of the way it's being perceived. But it's similar point to the last one. Tell your story and spread that word in that way, because it's a pretty risk-free way of marketing, and taking a long-term approach to this, that, you know, building relationships is the way forward. Like it, you know, I know that you have a strong belief in that that method of marketing anyway. So I don't think for you, in terms of that building relationships, actually changes. Yeah, we need to be careful what we do push, and you know, I don't think at the minute hard sell is appropriate form of marketing.
Neil Welsh, do you want to come in? You've got a blue hand, so you've either not got the heating on at home because you're tight, or you've used the Zoom raise hand facility.
No, I've put my hand up. It's quite warm in the kitchen here, so yeah, it's not a cold blue hand. Our group was a bit mixed in the sense that we'd got some positive news, some negative news. But one of the comments that came through it was when you've been delivering potentially bad news, or you've been dealing with clients who are subject to bad news, it's then quite difficult to transition your own mindset in, and having that optimistic positivity to then try and win new work. So we've got Heidi on the wedding side of things, dealing with you know, brides and families who lost the wedding, and being kind of quite negative about that. But then obviously having an expectation of trying to, you know, book new work. And from my perspective on the wealth management side, you're talking to clients who've lost perhaps 15-20% of pension or investment value, but then you're speaking to so many of them and saying, you know, this is not good, but it will get better. But it's that perfect opportunity to invest, and things will get better. But it's when you're talking bad news, you run the risk of sort of sinking slowly, which means that when you're then trying to transition back into winning new work, it's a little harder to do so. So trying to do something mindset wise is really key. And then the other point that we had was just we don't need to wait for normal to return, because we're going to have a new normal anyway, aren't we? I think so. We just need to crack on.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that, Neil, in terms of the new normal. You know, this is a massive business shift. The way people will do business will not just return to normal, to the way it was before. The point from the you know, delivering negative news to your clients and those around you, you know, from a mindset perspective, that can be really difficult. One thing that I was potentially going to suggest is that you know, on the back of this, if you're in a similar situation to other people, creating little subgroups and a small network and have some roundtables to discuss those challenges. It always makes you feel a little bit better when you realise you're not the only one going through that situation. So, you know, me and Sam will facilitate some of that and try and help solve some of those problems if needs be. You just need to reach out, and it is a challenging time but it's certainly a lot more challenging for certain sectors to sort of market themselves and sell for the future. But you know, it is important that we remain optimistic and we do reinvent our businesses. Every business can reinvent themselves to find some opportunity.
Jackie, did you want to come in and share your story? Jackie runs a recruitment agency, by the look of it, in the care sector. She's having some problems selling that, I guess, at the minute. Jackie left us. Yeah, Jackie. No, Jackie's there. I'll try unmuting Jackie. You there, Jackie?
Has she posted a question in the text? Perhaps we can just answer it.
It was more just sharing. Jackie says, my issue is as a care worker agency and home care provider, overcoming the fear that is in the minds of the potential recruit, because obviously I guess they're scared that they might find themselves getting coronavirus. So maybe they don't want to, they're a difficult group to sell to, I guess. Is that right, Jackie? I'm going to say yes.
Yes, it's quite bad.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, there is a huge fear. However, I think it's really important that you get your message out there. It's even more important if you're in a situation like this to really strongly spread the information to people as to what you're doing, what things are you putting in place. People still need care. They are still going to need help. You know, everything else hasn't gone away because of the situation that we're in currently. So it's really important that you spread your message and just try and reassure through the message that you're putting out through your social platforms, website and whatnot, you know, the measures that you are putting in place. If you're just silent about those measures, then people won't be reassured at all. Not easy, but yeah, start by telling the world what your what position you're in and the measures that you put in place.
We've got 5 minutes left. If anyone wants to put a question or a question to Dave or a comment or share some experience.
All right. I think Amber's already put it in.
Go on, Shu. Go for it.
Well, like I was saying in the group, my issue is, okay, I'm actually quite busy, believe it or not. Why that is, I'm not quite sure. Whether it's, you know, others are closed, furloughed, or what. But for me, I need to be out. I need to be out seeing service engineers, maintenance engineers, and at the minute, obviously, I can't because, you know, a lot of my customers have put in place distancing rules and so forth. But when for me to market to them customers, it's now impossible because they don't use social networking tools. So, you know, what do I do?
I think the majority of the country is on Facebook, so you probably find that they are on social media. So they are on some social network.
That's you know, me and Facebook don't mix. I don't even have a Facebook account. Believe it or not, I closed my account years ago. I've never used it again. I keep getting told this Facebook, but Facebook is not for me.
You might need to reinvent yourself to to get on it, because
you know, if you for Facebook.
You know, the reality is that your audience is on Facebook. They might not engage with you in a business perspective there, but they are on Facebook, and you need to utilize the platforms available. Where the attention is where you need to be spending your time, or your business needs to be spending your time. If you can't do it yourself, find somebody who can, or, you know, find somebody who can help in that situation. So yeah, the reality is that business is going to change. So you going out and seeing people might not return at all. You know, we've got to accept that there's going to be a lot of businesses out there thinking, do we need to have as many meetings? Do we need to see all these people? There's going to be a lot of businesses that are afraid of a second outbreak, and therefore don't put the staff at risk and say, right, outside meetings, we're not having them. So you're going to have to adapt and find a way to engage with your customers in a different way. It might be an offline way, by the way. You might be able to post them stuff and direct marketing at the minute, because most businesses have stopped marketing altogether. So there is an opportunity there.
No, well, the thing is with me, I'm in the oils and lubricants game, so I can't see a machine sat at home, you know, so to speak. I need to be out there to, you know, if they've got problems, issues with the machines, I need to be there. It can't be done remotely. Yeah,
okay. So for the physical servicing side, that's never going to disappear. You'll still have to go out and visit them to do that. I think as we go back to business, you need to make sure, though, that yours is the business that they call when we can lift those restrictions. So you need to be engaging with people now, ready to return to business at full speed.
Dave, it's Ray here. I think just backing up the point that some of the people have been making about changing businesses. I actually work for a certification body. So we do the most common audit everybody would be familiar with would be ISO 9001. And I've worked in the industry a long time. And it does tend to be the sort of industry that's quite slow to change in terms of, you know, just going out and doing audits. But one thing that, well, it quite frankly, it amazed me was that overnight, our governing body who audits us and our industry, we've changed overnight to remote audits. So instead of going to visit physically, I'm sure you've all seen the auditors walking around asking questions. We're doing it via video conferencing, WhatsApp, video clips, virtual tours. I'm sure we'll go back to a mixture, but our industry will never be the same again.
Could I just ask a quick question to that gentleman who's asking that question?
Yeah.
Do you feel that it would speed? Do you feel it would speed up the ISO process at that point, and therefore more benchmarking could take place nationally in the UK to ensure more compliance through local and national business networks?
Well, I think there's a place for it. I think it certainly has got efficiencies. So, and one big efficiency that I would give you is the travel time for the auditor, which is obviously reduced. So there's more time probably spent with the client, I guess.
Yeah,
and it reduces costs as well.
All right, I'm gonna cut in because we've only got 2 minutes left. I've got a couple of questions I want to get off. So Susanna got a question around just getting the tone of the marketing right. Susanna, do you want to very quickly put your question to Dave? And Dave, if you can keep your answer brief, because I've got a question from Mark McLaughlin as well around social media.
Okay. Thank you. Hiya, Dave. I think this is one thing that I've heard a few people struggling with. It's just sort of getting that tone right. Because obviously you want to let people know you're still open for business, but obviously you've got to be, have empathy with the fact that not just businesses are struggling, but there's people, in losing their lives and in really bad situations. So it's just getting that tone right.
Yeah, I mean, the easy. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but it's really important that you do share your story. You've still got the same connections that you had before, and there is, because of the empathy that is around there. If you share your story, and don't be afraid to say, "Oh, look, I've lost a client because of this situation," because people with that will empathise. So another business in a different situation may then engage with you on the back of that. So. I think telling your story is so important, but the thing is, it needs to be personal. So it needs a picture of you, or it needs a video snippet of yourself. People need to be able to relate to it. So if you go out with just a graphic that says "buy my stuff," it's fairly unlikely that you'll get the messaging right. It really needs to be at this moment in time about the people behind the business and not the business itself.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. And last question, Mark. And Mark's been doing quite a lot of, certainly what I've seen on LinkedIn is very much reflecting the personal side of Keyfleet. So, Mark, what's your question?
It was just about social media generally. Dave, you were saying that social media usage is up. Makes sense. People are sat at home. Is that true of LinkedIn as well as Facebook? Because people maybe they're a bit more nervous about using LinkedIn than they are like a personal platform like Facebook. And secondly, 2 questions. Is it possible to target business users, B2B, for Facebook paid ads in the same way that you can do on LinkedIn or close to?
Okay. So on the second one, I'm going to hand you over to Sam if he's still around. But yeah, I think as far as I'm aware, yes, the targeting will have to be slightly different and smarter, but I'll hand that back to Sam in a second. Your first question, yes, activity is definitely up on LinkedIn. You'll have probably noticed it yourself. Some of that is because all those people were there before, but now all of a sudden they feel the need to post because, that's the only way they can put themselves out there. So yeah, it's definitely still going up, an upward trend in social media activity. I'd say there's been a thing popped in the chat there I've just noticed about what about other social channels. I'm pretty sure that they're all on the up. I haven't done the research into the exact figures on all of them. But generally speaking, that there is a trend on social media activity going up. TikTok is just massive at the minute. If your audience is on TikTok, God, I'm sounding old now. If your audience is on TikTok, it's a great platform to be on and share your story and get some little bits of information out there. The audience is still relatively young, but generally speaking, the youngsters adopt the new technologies quicker, and then it kind of spreads along a bit. But don't forget, these youngsters that are on TikTok will stay on TikTok when they, in another 5-10 years. You tend to stick with the social media platform you grew up with. So if they're going to be your customer in 5 years, now's the time to get on TikTok. Yeah, some parents do join TikTok. I'm seeing that a lot as well. So second one, Sam, if you're about, can you jump in there on targeting on Facebook?
Thanks, Boris. So yeah, in terms of the targeting on the different platforms, so Facebook, you can't target quite as well in terms of the employers, because it doesn't register all of them in the same way LinkedIn does, but you can target by industry, job title. Job title is a big one for us. So obviously when we work with a lot of marketing managers, we can target people that are marketing managers, marketing execs, marketing coordinators, go for all the different variations around the kind of target that you're looking for. And Facebook is pretty good on that as well, because people just love to share all their information.
Thank you.
Great. Dave, any final words of wisdom?
Just get on it. Go for it. Go on the offensive. Now's the time. Leave your competitors behind.
Great. Well, on behalf of our audience, who have all stayed with you, which is a good testament to you, and on behalf of the Chamber, thank you to Dave Walker from Plus 24 Marketing. Thanks to everybody for joining. I'm going to do a quick exit poll, which should be on your screens now, just for you to give some instant feedback on today's session. Please do check chamberlive.co.uk for details of the upcoming sessions. There's one next Monday from 2 o'clock until 3, and then we're back next Wednesday from 10:30 again. Please do get in touch with the membership team. Follow us on LinkedIn. Join the Chamber Live group on LinkedIn. And most importantly, keep washing your hands and stay safe, everybody. See you next time. Thank you.